Hello, I'm Stephen Twining and I'm very proud to be the 10th generation of the family in tea, and welcome to our historic shop. The doorway you've just walked through was put up by the third generation of the family in 1787. It is a sign of respect to his grandfather, because Thomas Twining, the founder, when he opened the world's first dry tea and coffee shop on this site, traded under the sign of the Golden Lion, because in those days you didn't have street names. So the address today, of course, is 216 Strand, but in those days it was the Golden Lion in Devereux Court, which is just to our side. So Richard, his grandson, lies the Golden Lion down, and to represent the tea trade are the two Chinese figures, because tea in those days still only came from China. So please come with me and I'll show you around this wonderful historic venue. Probably the most important person here is Thomas, the founder, but there have been a huge number of the generations that have what I would describe as great pioneers. So in particular, Thomas, who started it with this philosophy that he wanted to do one thing and one thing really well. So although he opened the world's first dry tea and coffee shop, his skill was in tea, in the buying and the blending of tea, and I'll explain a bit more about that a little later. So he didn't open more retail outlets because he wasn't an expert retailer, and wholesaled his teas, trying to gain a reputation for that expertise, which he succeeded in. His son Daniel starts the second great tradition of our business, which is exporting tea. We now sell tea in over 115 countries around the world, and he was doing business with North America and Canada before they became the United States. Certainly we know our tea was sold before the famous Boston Tea Party. His widow, who was a remarkable lady, she ran this business for some 21 years at the end of the 18th century, her husband having died a few years before. When Mary was in charge, we estimate 2/3 of all the tea consumed in the United Kingdom was smuggled in to avoid the huge 119% import tax. But the smugglers weren't in it for the love of the quality of the tea, they were in it for the money, so they would pay people to add twigs, bark, dried leaves, other things that looked like a tea leaf, so they could bulk it out and maximise their profits. Mary, we know, never bought smuggled tea. She stuck to the straight and narrow, looked after her great customers by keeping them happy with good quality tea, and saw us through a very difficult time. And she must also have been a very good teacher, because her son Richard, who put up that magnificent doorway, was instrumental in getting that high tax on tea down. Obviously in 1773 we'd had the Boston Tea Party, which was a protest against this very high tax on tea. Richard knew the smuggled tea was not good for people's health, and he persuaded the British Prime Minister in 1784 to bring it down, and we became the nation of tea drinkers. The other thing Richard did was to create our logo. I am Stephen Twining. And in English, of course, it's the tea of Mr. Twining becomes Twinings with an apostrophe. He didn't like the apostrophe, so he created the brand name Twinings by removing it. His son continued the family tradition of customers who came into this shop would be offered a personal blend. We would ask the customer what they liked, and they would say, "May I have a relaxing tea or an invigorating tea?" Richard would mix various teas together, and when you were happy with that as a customer, we'd write up the ingredients next to your name in our book of our ledger of customers, and so next time you came in, we could repeat that for you. So in the 1830s, when a British Prime Minister received a wonderful gift of tea, and more importantly his recipe from the envoy that he'd sent out to China to do some work for him. The legend is that the envoy saved the Mandarin's life that he was dealing with, and so in gratitude the Mandarin gave him this great gift of tea and its recipe, which was a truly great gift because the Chinese revered tea and didn't give its secrets away easily. The Prime Minister received it because the head man always takes the credit, and when he tasted it, wanted more of it and asked his tea merchants Twinings to make more of this wonderful tea for him. And we're delighted that we still have the Grey family's endorsement with the signature of the 7th Earl signing our boxes to say, yes, this is the original version that his ancestor drank. It's a beautiful tea, which I'll try and encourage you to taste a little later on. Now, one of the things at the heart of our company are our master tea tasters. Tea is a beautiful natural crop, but it's a bit like wine. Where it grows, the soil, the weather conditions and the altitude all affect the flavour it produces. So teas from all around the world taste very different, but more importantly, if the weather changes from one week to the next, the tea from a same tea garden will vary through the season. Therefore, the job of our master tea tasters is to select the great quality teas, but then to blend them, mix them together, so that your cup of Earl Grey or English breakfast or whatever tea you're drinking always tastes the same. So although English breakfast mainly comes from India and African teas, it's getting that consistency of taste, so that the colour's always the same, the taste is the same, the aroma's the same, and how it feels in your mouth is always the same. And if you come into this shop, you can talk, for example, to Mr.
The world over, tea has its name synonymous with the country one is in. It would appear that in countries where tea arrived by sea, the words for tea begin with the letter T. For example, TEE in Germany, or simply tea in Britain.
So the master blenders, very important. By master blenders, I mean people with at least 10 years of experience. And these days, of course, we're not just blending teas, we blend wonderful herbs, because it's all about making great tasting hot beverages. As we walk down the shop, I have skipped out the section which talks to our social responsibility program called Source with Care, where we help the people in the communities that supply us with our ingredients. And of course, we like to talk about well-being, because tea and the herbal infusions are very much all about inner goodness and what it does for you. So please come this way. Every day of the week, you're allowed to come into the shop without an appointment, and you can taste at the tasting bar whatever our team have on offer. And also, if you have a particular request from the many different very special teas that we have, you are most welcome to try those too. The final hidden gem in this shop is the tasting bar. You can book a tutored tea tasting for up to 10 people, which we conduct downstairs. Hello and welcome to the area where we conduct masterclasses. Under the watchful eye of Mary at the far end of the room, the team here and myself, absolute believers that she still walks these floors, but in a very benevolent way. And I'm here with Julia, Senior Brand Ambassador, who's going to tell you a little bit more about how a masterclass will work.
Thank you, Stephen. So you will see we're set up here today for our classic tea masterclasses. In the Strand shop, we still do these today so people can learn a little bit more about the history of tea, history of Twinings in the family, and then also go through plantation to cup, how the tea plant is grown, where it's grown, and then they get to taste the 6 different categories of tea. Now, one of my favourite teas is the oolong.
Yep, yeah. Lovely.
So I have the tea guanyin oolong here, which is this lovely balled up leaf. But if you see it when it's actually wet leaf, you will see how much it unfurls completely. So if I actually open it up here, you can see.
I think this always amazes people that the actual size of leaf.
Yeah.
You've effectively got a whole leaf in there.
Incredible.
Yeah. And it's a great technique they have for creating what oolong. So I always think of tea-like wine. So the black teas are like red wine because they've been through the oxidization process, heavier in the mouth. Green teas are like the white wines, and this is the oolong of the tea world.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. It's my favourite tea, basically. And I think, they always have these quotes where they said you never know what's going to happen when they're put in hot water. I think oolong is exactly the perfect thing about that. You see these tiny leaves here, you have no idea what's going to happen to it, and as soon as it turns to these massive ones like this. Oolong is a semi-oxidised tea. We talk about this a lot in the masterclass. And it's really interesting to see how much the leaves here darken around the edges and how much it changes the flavour. So when you go from a green tea to like a black tea, how you can get some that are very, very close to green, very close to black.
Absolutely. I love it because it's got that additional mouthfeel that you don't get in the green teas, but it's still got the refreshment of green teas. So yeah, a wonderful, wonderful tea.
So during the class, we showcase lots of different things like this. You can see that these are the 6 categories of tea. So they're the only categories of tea you can get in the tea world at the moment. So we have white, yellow, green, oolong, black and pu'er. And just the variation of the leaf itself and the different countries they come from is something which I don't think you can get anywhere else in London, actually.
Yes, I always enjoy showing people white tea because if you get a real close-up on it, it's almost downy. It's as if it's feathered. So the pei ho, which is the white tea, freshly picked after the first gentle rain, so a first flush tea, absolutely beautiful.
And then obviously we have the pu'er, which I think is a very exciting one. So during the class we get to taste this one, which is the tocha, which is a pu'er that is wrapped, it's like compressed leaf. This one here. And then we also have something that we can just showcase. This isn't anything we sell, but just to showcase the different sorts of pu'er that you can get in the world, like how it's compressed like this, very, very large compressed leaves. Amazing, isn't it? The white tea that I've just brewed here today is Chakra Silver Tips. It's a white tea from Indonesia, from West Java. And it is just the silver tips, the silver needles of the plant. So my favourite thing to do with this, Stephen, is with the wet leaf itself, where you can sort of open it up.
Yep.
And there's another little leaf inside it.
Yes. It is really beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, because then it shows that they're very particular about when they pluck the leaves, the buds themselves. They're plucking them when there's like a bud within a bud because they want all that flavour in there. Because if you pluck something and there's no nothing inside it, you won't get that flavour.
No, absolutely.
Because all tea in some way or another is rolled, unless even like the Longjing, it's sort of flattened or compressed, so that when the hot water goes onto it, it can unfurl.
Yep.
So this one is like the least processed type of tea that you can get, the white tea. It might go through like a small amount of sort of oxidation that's not natural oxidation, exactly. But it's more about sort of sun withering it and sun drying it. So you end up with these really, really beautiful, very delicate little white buds. And as we did speak about before, with the tiny little hairs on them, often called like lamb's tails. They're really, really cute.
Good description. I like that. Yeah.
And it shows how young they are. They're so delicate in that kind of way. So if I give you a cup of this one,
oh yes, please.
You can see what you think. There you go, Stephen. And I'll make one for myself as well.
It is so light, so delicate, but yet it covers quite a lot of the palate.
Yes.
Which I like, because you get the sensation not just in one place, but all around your palate, which makes it to me quite rich.
Definitely. I think the interesting thing about it is when people see the colour of it or they see the leaves, if you're not necessarily a tea drinker, or if you are and you like a really strong tea, you might think that it would not be for you at all. But sometimes people like coffee drinkers that I know often go for this because it's so unlike the tea they've grown up with, but you still have that strong flavour coming through.
Yes, because colour is in tea is nothing to do with strength.
Exactly.
It's one of the biggest mistakes people make. Really beautiful, a little bit of sweetness at the back of my palate, all sorts of things going on in this incredible cup. And one we'd thoroughly recommend without milk.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you put milk in this, you wouldn't see.
And the milk would just crush the beauty of the tea, wouldn't it?
Completely. I always think like when it comes to milk, I'm sure we have the same theory, like you should only really do it in sort of the category of black tea, and even then it shouldn't always be used.
I totally agree. So yeah, a beautiful second flush Darjeeling I wouldn't, a puer I wouldn't, but a great Assam or English breakfast, absolutely. And it's a very English habit, as I know you know.
Yeah.
With the first early cargoes of tea came the first China porcelain, little vessels like this, but they tended to be beautifully decorated too. And because tea was reserved for the wealthy and the aristocracy through the high prices, the ladies fell in love with this beautiful material, much better than earthenware or pewter, but were terrified that you could hold it up to the light and see through it. Surely it must crack and break if you poured a hot liquid straight in. So water wasn't safe then in the cities, so a little cold milk in the bottom of the cup, added the tea, it didn't break, done the right thing, continue. And that's why the British put milk in their tea.
And it's
bizarre.
delicious.
It works, yeah. But we are absolutely in the minority around the world.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah.
People look at us very strangely.
Yes, and yet when we travel abroad, we think, why aren't they putting milk in that tea? But actually...
And actually, when it comes down to the teas and things that we sell overseas as well, we sell them, they're slightly differently, aren't they?
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So we've always believed in acting locally. So, for instance, my friend the English breakfast, which we sell in many countries around the world, is a lighter cup of tea than the English breakfast we have in the UK, because we want a heartier cup of tea that's going to take milk, whereas most people are never going to add milk to that.
And you do hear English people saying they've been abroad and they're just like, but just the tea, it just wasn't the same, it wasn't strong enough. But this is why you have to, you know, appeal to the different trends there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the joys of tea is that you can recreate things. So obviously we got the classic Earl Grey, which I alluded to upstairs. And again, different countries. So this is the UK version and this is the international version. Back in the 1990s, some of our Scandinavian customers said that this tea, if you smell it, as you know only too well, the lovely aroma comes up at you, and when you make it in the pot, it does exactly the same thing, because there's a citrus fruit, the bergamot, which is somewhere with a taste profile between a lime and a grapefruit, and that is sort of defines Earl Grey. That was too much for them, and they wanted a lighter one, so I'm going to borrow one of these.
Oh, please do.
And we reduced the amount of bergamot and replaced it with citrus peel of orange and lemon, and you might also pick out some blue cornflowers in there. They're not actually there for the taste, they're there for the aesthetic look, and it makes a lovely lighter version, a more delicate version of Earl Grey, and thus we called it Lady Grey, because what is more delicate than an Earl, but obviously a lady.
It's one of my favourite teas, actually. It goes beautifully with the shortbread biscuits, my favourite.
Yeah,
very good
for an afternoon tea.
Definitely. Or any time of day.
Can't go wrong at all, yeah. It always staggers me how important the ladies, or the wealthy and the aristocracy ladies, were in the story of tea, and how that has remained through to today. Thomas obviously started his coffee house, but to service his best customers, because you as a lady would never go into a coffee house, socially to boot. Us chaps drinking rum brandy, I reckon, having a jolly good time. So by opening the store, that was absolutely the route forwards, because then his customers could come into a shop. It's a respectable institution, therefore they can select their own teas.
I mean, this is considered to be one of the very, very first places in London that men and women were able to buy their tea together. And I think this is a huge thing for Twinings, the fact that they opened the shop as the Golden Lion Tea and Coffee Shop.
Yes.
As opposed to just being Tom's Coffee House.
Yes.
Which meant the ladies could come in and buy their teas. It meant that Thomas Twining could blend things very specifically for them, or they could take small amounts of it away with them and then blend it up at home.
Yes.
But obviously, because tea was so precious,
yes.
But the taxation on tea was 119% tax on top of the price of tea.
Yes.
So in order, when you took it home, to keep it safe away from your servants, for example, is you pop it into what is known as a tea caddy, and you would have it locked away.
Yes.
The thing I love the most about this is the servants would set up all the little china bowls, they would set up the silver kettles, but the lady of the house made the tea herself.
Yes.
So this is when it's considered to be, tea was never considered to be a chore. ever. And I think even now when people come into your home, you offer them a cup of tea. It's the mark of them feeling comfortable and sort of having our very first tea ceremony. So way before afternoon tea,
Yes.
the women at the forefront of that. And then the lock itself had a key, obviously the fitted, just one key. And the lady of the house wore around her neck and attached her skirts at all times. That's how precious tea was.
Yes, it is phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, some people say that back in those days, tea by weight was more valuable than gold.
Yes. They actually called it black gold at some point, didn't
yes,
they?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So absolutely phenomenal. But yes, without the ladies championing tea, we certainly wouldn't be standing here talking about it today.
Definitely not. And then when you sort of said about Mary as well before, obviously, Mary, who we have here, she's another woman that then championed tea later on as a female tea dealer at a time where it was all men. It
Pretty
wasn't
much.
times happening.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. A very unusual lady, very determined, and as we said, we still feel her presence today, which is a good thing. Definitely a good thing. But yes, the story of afternoon tea, though, I think is a myth. Because it's always credited to Anna, the seventh Duchess of Bedford, whose family home is Woburn, so I'm sure you know. I think the middle classes were doing it way before the 1830s, but they wanted to link it to royalty.
I mean, that makes sense, yes.
And therefore the story sprang up that it was her. And speaking of Queen Victoria, of course, she honoured us with our first royal warrant, which we've had the honour of supplying tea to every successive monarch since. Do you happen to know what it is?
isn't it that they buy... No, actually, I don't know. Suddenly panicked.
That's good, because it's a secret, and I'm afraid we can't tell anyone.
But the warrant itself, does she purchase, the monarch purchases teas from
We
us?
supply the royal household,
Right,
is
okay.
the way it works, absolutely. So we've been lucky enough to supply every successive British queen since Victoria with their tea, and that's a huge honour. And to me, it says that we not only offer great products, but we also offer great service, and we behave as a responsible company. So we've got a great social responsibility source with care program. We monitor our carbon footprints and reduce all those sort of things is summed up in the royal warrant.
Definitely.
Perfect. Well, Julia, thank you very much indeed for that. I think nice flavour of what people would expect. But yes, I hope they come along and have the full experience, because watching it on TV, they can't taste it. And that's a shame. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into what we do at this wonderful historic shop, and some of the insights into tea and those little stories. But more importantly, I hope one day you'll be able to come here physically and actually taste the tea, which of course is what it's all about. But until then, cheerio.